So hello and welcome back students to your third chapter, that is administration of company. We will be moving on to your next topic in this particular video. Now your next topic is a whole-time director. Earlier in the previous video, we looked into what is administration of a company, the introduction, key managerial personnel, appointment of key managerial personnel, managing director. Okay. Today we will be moving on to the next topic, that is whole-time director. Now who is a whole-time director? A whole-time director basically means a person who belongs to the top management of the organization. He is a person who is entrusted with a lot of responsibilities and also the person who will be in charge of the company, and he will be working all the time. That is 24/7 for the company. Okay, that is a short meaning of a whole-time director. Now as per section 2 subsection 94 of the Companies Act 2013, it defines whole-time director as a director in whole-time employment of the company. Okay, simple words, he is working for the company throughout the day. Okay, throughout 24/7 he is working for the company only. Okay, so according to section 2 subsection 94 of the Companies Act 2013, they are defining a whole-time director as a director in the whole-time employment of the company. Okay, he is in the whole-time employment of the company. Under your whole-time director, these are the things that you need to cover. The first one is the manager. Now in your manager, section 2 subsection 53, okay, your sections are very important, without which if you do not mention the sections and the subsection as well as the Companies Act 2013, you are tend to not get marks. Okay, so it's better you all mention the sections also. Be very well versed with the sections. Okay, according to section 2 subsection 53 of the Companies Act of 2013, it defines manager as an individual. Okay, firstly he is an individual, defining as an individual who subject to superintendence. First one is superintendence, second is control, third is direction of the board of director, has the management of whole or substantially the whole of affairs of a company, and includes a director or any other person occupying a position of a manager by whatever name called, whether under a contract of service or not. Basically they are saying, how they are defining a manager is, they are saying a manager is an individual. Okay, now a manager is an individual who is subjected to firstly superintendence. Okay, he's taking the superiority and he's taking the direction and control. Second, he's taking the complete authority and control. Third, direction. Direction of whom? Direction of the board of directors. Superintendence, control and direction of the board of directors. Okay, and also the management as a whole or substantially. He is taking as a whole or just a quite number, substantial, that is little. Okay, the whole of affairs of the company. Okay, he is taking control of the management as a whole or by part, and also taking the affairs of the company, and includes a director or any other person. He is also taking in consideration the director or any other person who is occupying the position of a manager by whatever name called, whether under a contract or service or not. Okay, basically this is how the Companies Act of 2013 section 2 subsection 53 is defining a manager as. Okay, you need to remember the terms as it is given. You need to memorize, you need to by heart and remember in the same order. Okay, next is chief executive officer or chief financial officer. Again, this is a person who belongs in the top management. Okay, section 2 subsection 18 or 19 of the Companies Act 2013 defines chief executive officer or the chief financial officer as the officer of a company. He is the officer of a company who has been designated. Designated means appointed as such by it. Okay, appointed by the company. Okay, I hope this is very clear and easy to understand. Next is your company secretary. According to section 2 subsection 24 of the Companies Act of 2013, it defines company secretary or the secretary means a company secretary is defined in clause C. Okay, it is defined in clause C subsection 1 of section 2 of the Companies Secretaries Act 1980, who is appointed by a company. A secretary is basically the one who is appointed by the company to perform the functions of the company secretary under this act. Basically a company secretary is basically a person, it will be an individual who will be appointed by the company in order to perform certain duties. Okay, Next is you have a resident director. Now what is a resident director? According to section 149 subsection 3 of the Companies Act 2013 has provided for residence of a director in India. Okay, this is limited and subjected to India as compulsory. That is, every company will have at least one director who has stayed in India for a total period of not less than 182 days in the previous calendar year. Okay, you will know what this is when you are in your final year, when you study income tax. You will know what is the previous year and what is the current year, and all of this will come under income tax. Now in this particular topic, all you have to know is basically every company will appoint an individual who will be a resident director, and this particular resident director will have to stay in India in the previous year for a period of not less than 182 days. Okay, basically he has to stay for a period of not less than 182 days in the calendar year. Okay, now let's move on to what are the duties and responsibilities of a resident director. Firstly, resident director will be fully responsible as a normal director of the company. Just like how a normal director is responsible for the duties of the company, even the resident director will be responsible. Next, a resident director will not be involved in operational control of the company. Normal director will be involved in carrying out the day-to-day operations. Okay, whereas resident director will not be involved in the operational control of the company. Third one is resident director will be appointment to fulfill the statutory requirements. Now what are statutory requirements? It is the legal requirements as per set by the Companies Act 2013, or it could be your rules and regulations of the company as set by the government. Okay, they will be appointed in order to fulfill all the requirements, that is statutory requirements, compulsory legal requirements. Okay, next is directorship will be covered under the officers and liability insurance. Okay, their directorship will be covered under officers. Okay, whatever their directorship is, it will be covered under officers and liability insurance. Okay, next, resident director will participate in board meetings of the company wherever required. Now suppose that meetings will be carried on, right? So a resident director will basically be participating in all the meetings as and when it is being held. Okay, so similar to your resident director, next you have your independent director. Now who is an independent director? You all know that is an individual person, right? The Companies Act 1956 does not provide for a specific definition of an independent director. Okay, they are not providing, a Companies Act is not providing. There is a Companies Act of 1956 as well, and there is a revised version of 2013 as well. So 1956 is not providing a definition for the independent director. But independent directors are in the limelight as per Companies Act of 2013. When the Companies Act was revised in 2013, they even took into consideration the independent director. Okay, they have established a separate criteria, and they have also defined the independent director also. Okay, so let's look into how it is being defined. Basically, we can say that independent director is a non-executive director. Very important, we can say independent director is a non-executive director, someone who does not have to execute each and everything of a company, who helps in improving corporate credibility. Corporate credibility, what is corporate credibility? Enhancing the organization, enhancing the goodwill and reputation of the organization. Corporate credibility and governance. What is governance? That is how you are governing, how you are carrying out the operations of the company, how you are carrying out the functioning of the company. Governance standards. He or she does not have any kind of relationship with the company that may affect the independence of his or her judgment. Basically, an independent director, he is a non-executive director who is just improving and enhancing the performance of the company, enhancing the goodwill and reputation of the company, and he is just governing the company. But he or she, basically it could be a male or a female who can be appointed as independent director. This independent director will not have any kind of relationship with the company which will affect the independence of this particular director or his or her judgment. The term independence director has been defined in the Act along with several new requirements relating to their appointment, duties, roles and responsibilities. The provision relating to appointment of independent directors are contained in section 149 of the Companies Act 2013 2013 should be read along with Rule 4 and Rule 5 of the Companies Act. Appointment and qualification of directors and rules as per 2014. This is not required. All you need to know is this particular paragraph as to who is an independent director and what are his rules and responsibilities as per the Companies Act of 2013. Okay. So now let's move on to your next topic, that is auditor. Auditor is the person who audits the books and accounts of the particular company. He is called an auditor. I think you will know who an auditor is, right? So basically an auditor is a person, okay? Auditor is a person who is authorized to review, firstly to review and verify the accuracy, okay? To see how accurate the information is, okay? An auditor is a person who is authorized to review and verify the accuracy, okay, of financial records and ensure that companies comply with the tax laws, okay? Auditor is basically a person who is just like you know, there will be accountant in a company. Accountant will take all the information of a particular company and he will find out what is the profit and loss. He will prepare balance sheet and everything. Auditor is the person who will audit all of this information to see whatever financial information is given is as per the rules and regulations of the tax laws, okay? Why are they doing this? Auditor is appointed only to protect the business from fraud, point of discrepancies in accounting methods. You know, when you're preparing any account statements or anything as such, people tend to do fraud. They will repeatedly take one or more entries. They will not show various entries. You know, the duplication of entries, error, mischief, fraud, and all of will be done, right? So in order to avoid all of that, auditor is appointed. The auditor, basically auditing is done for a particular company either twice in a year or once in 6 months, okay? So this is done in order to protect the business from fraud, point out discrepancies in accounting methods, and on occasion of work on consultancy basis, helping organization to spot ways to boost operational efficiency. Auditors will work in various capacity within different industries, okay? They will have different companies will have different auditors. You can have an independent auditor. You can have either you can have an internal auditor or an external auditor. Who is an internal auditor? Internal auditor will basically be the person who is appointed from the company. He will basically be an employee of the company. Who will be an external auditor? External auditor will basically be a person who is an expert, okay, who has qualified who is very competent. He is very capable of conducting auditing. He will be appointed from outside, okay? Now, how is the appointment of auditor for different kinds of company done? Now, as you all know, you've studied in your business study what are the different kinds of companies. You will have private companies, you will have government companies, you will have listed, non-listed, non-government companies, and all of this, right? Now let's look into the appointment of auditor as per the various companies. First one is your particulars. So in your particulars, firstly it says application of first auditor post incorporation. Post incorporation as per non-government company appointed by the board of directors. Here firstly they are appointed by the board of directors. This has to be done within 30 days of the date of registration, okay? You are appointing the board of director and this has to be done within 30 days of the registration of the company, okay? So you are appointing the auditor within 30 days of the registration of the company in the as per the non-government company. Thirdly, what you are doing is appointment can be also done by members at an extraordinary, okay? Members of extraordinary appointment basically can be done at extraordinary also, and also general meeting within 90 days of information. You can also conduct a general meeting by providing necessary information, and you can also appoint the various auditors, okay? Now, application of first auditor of post incorporation as per listed specified company is basically appointed by the board of directors, okay? They are appointed by the board of directors. This has to be done again within 30 days of incorporation, and appointment can also be done by members in extraordinary general meeting within 90 days of the information. After providing 90 days of information, within that particular period of time, appointment of first auditor has to be done. Next is your government company. Now, how is it done by the government company? It is appointed here. It was appointed by the board of directors only, right? So here it is appointed by the comptroller and the Auditor General of India, okay? They are either appointed by comptroller or by the Auditor General of India. Second, this has to be done within 60 days from the date of registration. appointment can be also be done by board of directors within 30 days of incorporation. Within 30 days, here it was you see, here also it was 30 days of incorporation, that is appointment. Here also it is 30 days. Next, it is members can also appoint at an extraordinary general meeting within 60 days of information. Okay, all the members also can pass in a particular resolution based on whom they want to appoint as an auditor. Based on that particular thing also, within 60 days in an extraordinary general meeting, they can appoint the first auditor. Okay, now auditor at first general meeting. Now what is the particulars in the second part? That is, auditor at first annual general meeting, the written consent and a certificate. Please note, the appointment shall be in accordance with the conditions which is laid down by the auditor. Now, in this particular thing, the auditor will give you the necessary rules and regulations according to which a particular according to which the auditor will be appointed. Okay, now as per your non-government company, the appointment is done by the members. Okay, appointment is done by members. He will hold office till the end of the 6th annual general meeting. Auditor in the non-government company will be appointed as per the members. He will be appointed by the members, and also he will hold the office till the 6th annual general meeting. Okay, now as per listed or specific companies, the appointment is done by members for a maximum term of 5 to 10 consecutive years. Okay, the appointment can be done for a maximum year of 5 to 10 years. Cooling period of 5 years before the appointment will be there. Okay, cooling period also will be given, as to they will check whether the auditor is capable or not, whether the auditor can be appointed or not as per the listed or specified company. Now, as per the government company, the appointment is done by the comptroller and auditor general. Now, whoever is appointed as per the auditor is concerned, it is appointed by the comptroller and the auditor general. Whereas in your non-government company and your listed company, they are appointed by the board of directors, right? Now, he should be appointed within 180 days of the 1st April. Now, why 1st April? 1st April is the year of the accounting period. It is the time for the annual financial records to be prepared. Okay, April to March, that is 1st April to 31st March is our accounting period. That is why auditor is appointed on the 1st of April. Now, moving on to your next point, that is your third point, that is, as per your particulars, you have appointment of subsequent of auditor. Now, why do you want a subsequent auditor? As per your non-government company, the appointment is done by the members. Okay, appointment is done by members, and he will hold office till the conclusion of 6th meeting. Appointment is done by members, and he will hold the office till the appointment of till the 6th meeting. As per your listed or specified company, the appointment is done by the members for a maximum term of 5 to 10 consecutive years. Okay, they are appointed for a maximum term of 5 to 10 consecutive years. As per your government company, the appointment is done by the Comptroller and Auditor General in India within 180 days from 1st of April. Okay, within 180 days. As I told you all, why is it 1st of April? Because it is the accounting period. Okay, now casual vacancy due to resignation and other reasons. Now, obviously, vacancy will arise in any particular organization. Now, we cannot tell whether the particular vacancy is arised due to death or because of any accident or anything as such. Vacancy arises. Now, what happens in a non-government company? In your non-government company, the appointment is done by the members within 3 months of the recommendation of the board, and he will hold the office till the next annual general meeting. Now, suppose because there is an emergency vacancy which is arise, now the auditor is not there. It could be because of any reason. He would have fallen sick, or he would have met with an accident, or he could have even caused death. Okay, so what will happen in that particular thing in a non-government company? The appointment will be done within three months of the vacancy has arisen. Okay, by taking in consultation with the other members, and this particular auditor will continue to hold the board till the next annual general meeting. Now, there is no anything listed in the specified company. Now, what is as per the government company? The appointment is done as per the CAG. CAG is Comptroller and Auditor General. You might also get full forms in your section A as to what is CAG. You will have to write Comptroller and Auditor General. Within 30 days, or by the board of directors within next 30 days. Okay, in case even in government company, if there is any vacancy which is arised, even then you will have to take the recommendation of the comptroller or auditor general or the board members and appoint him within 30 days. Within 1 month period of time, that particular vacancy has to be fulfilled. Okay.